Hi guys, my name is Hailey King, and today you are listening to the Chain Clankers podcast.
You're listening to the Chain Clankers podcast with your hosts, Quentin Ferris and Horatio Gonzalez. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers.
What is going on, everybody? Horatio here with the Chain Clankers, and with me, like always, your boy Q. Super excited about today's episode. We got the DGPT 2020 champion, Hailey King. Super glad she was able to come on. We had a really good conversation. We were wanting to talk about a certain subject, but kind of got off track, but it turned out really good. So much information. But Q, tell us a little bit about what the listeners can expect today.
Yeah, if you're super excited like we were to have Hailey King on the Chain Clankers podcast, hey, leave us a thumbs up on YouTube. Leave us a Apple review podcast, leave us a review over there on Apple Podcasts. And yeah, let us know that you're excited for this and you want more content like this. We really love bringing it to you, especially when you guys enjoy it. But today we're really talking about improving your form, right? I think this is something that everyone can constantly be trying to do, and you should be trying to do, or at least filming yourself and making sure your form is still good. But yeah, we really talk a lot about form, improving it, some things you can do to improve it. We talk about a little bit how disc golf is really just baseball and how that thought process can unlock so much for you when it comes to your form and maybe getting a little bit of extra distance for you. Some of the things we talk about the aggressive versus kind of lay back mindset when it comes to disc golf. Should you run this? Should you lay it up? We talk about that, which I think Hailey has a really awesome and interesting answer for that. As well as Horatio said, we do talk about the Pro Tour Championship, how she won it, and just everything that came along with it. And finally, we answer your guys' Instagram questions, or some really good questions submitted. And I really think you guys are going to get a ton of value out of this episode. But without further ado, let's go ahead and let's bring Hailey on. Hailey King, super excited to have you on today's podcast. How are we doing today?
Doing great. How are you two?
My girlfriend was super excited to have you on today's show, just to be able to hear from you. You are someone that she looks up to in the sport of disc golf. So super excited to have you on today's show. And yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a good one. And I think we're all very fortunate to be able to talk to you and just learn from you today. So like I said, super excited to have you on. What has off-season life been like for you lately?
I've basically just been staying home. It's very snowy and cold out, so I haven't been able to play a lot of disc golf, but I've been going to a personal trainer. I've been going to him on and off like the last, 4 years or something. So I'm mainly just trying to take care of my body and then show up a little bit earlier before the All-Star weekend to get back into my disc golf habits.
Cool. That's definitely nice to hear. Where are you for your off season? I know a lot of people are down south. Where are you at?
I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. That's where my dad lives, so yeah.
So yeah, lots of snow there for sure.
Yep.
So do you just kind of get used to it and go play on the snow sometimes, or do you? I know you were on, I don't know when they recorded that, but we saw you on Paul Macbeth's YouTube video the other day. Do you take trips here and there to get out into some warmer weather?
Yeah, that's the plan. It's usually I can't play disc golf under like 30 degrees because my hands rip open too often. So instead of playing disc golf, I just like putt in my basement or putt indoors. And then I do like to take trips to my friend's house so I can actually throw discs.
Nice. That's awesome. Have you maybe noticed any kind of differences you have to make when putting inside versus putting outside?
Not really. My putt's pretty straightforward and easy. So yeah, no major changes.
Nice. That's good. I feel like there's someone I was talking to on Instagram where they were, discussing starting to putt inside this winter because it was getting snowy and cold and nasty outside, and they were worried about potentially having, some big changes to their form or messing up in the wind or anything like that. And I just kind of told them, I said, guy, honestly, it's the same thing. It's the same approach. Maybe the wind's a little bit different, but it's really building that muscle memory and getting confident with it, seeing it actually go in the basket. I think that could be the number one important thing with practicing putting, but we'll get into a little bit of that later. So Hailey, I kind of want to start off this interview here with, how did you get into disc golf? You're obviously a very young and talented disc golfer. Where was your start in disc golf?
So one day, my dad played disc golf with his coworker, and the next day we all went out. And we're a very athletic family, so we like to do outside sports. And I just fell in love with disc golf from there. I think that was in 2013, and
So
then
how old would you have been at the time?
I would have been 11 or 12.
Cool. And how consistently did you guys start playing, or like how quickly were you hooked into it to where you wanted to go?
I'd say I really didn't get hooked until 2016. That's when I was like, oh, I can make this a thing. I can make this my career. But in the beginning, it was maybe like once a week, maybe once every other week type dealio. I was in middle school, and my dad lives an hour away from my mom, so there was a lot of traveling, so we didn't get much time to disc golf at that point.
And was there maybe like a tournament or something that kind of got you more into that, hey, this can be something I do for many years to come? Or was it just kind of continuing to play, finding yourself out there more, enjoying the game more and more, and then just kind of continuously falling into that rabbit hole?
Well, my first tournament I played, I won by 22 strokes in rec women. Um, let's just say I never played rec again. Um, so I'd say that was definitely like the start of what made me hungry to get more wins and just make this a thing.
Were you just kind of naturally talented when it came to disc golf, or I guess just, I know a lot of times like new players, especially younger kids, they just don't have any bad habits, so that helps a lot? Or was your dad kind of coaching you and helping you out like on your form and stuff?
My dad and I just played strictly for fun. He didn't teach me anything. We joined at the same time, so if anything, I taught him stuff. The one thing he always taught me from the beginning was you have to be able to lay up, make that up shot, and if you don't, you're going to lose strokes there. So that's always been the one major thing he's taught me, and I'd say probably the only thing, but yeah.
I think that's something that's really good to take forward, and something I definitely want to get into a little bit later, that aggressive versus, I don't want to call it passive, but maybe playing smarter disc golf kind of mindset. So how long was it, or I guess how many years were you playing before you started to get the eyes of Discraft and, maybe thinking about, hey, maybe I should do this a little bit more often. Maybe I should join the tour, play some bigger tournaments. How long did that take for you?
So it was my first Ledgestone that I decided I wanted to play more events outside Wisconsin and just more in general. I think that was I think it was 2017. But I got sponsored by Discraft the winter of 2016. So that's where it started.
So 3 years into you playing, you got sponsored?
Yeah.
You started 11, 12, 13, so you were 14 at the time.
14 or 15, yeah.
14, that's crazy. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, we've seen some players, get sponsored pretty young. How often were you playing for them to, see that you were a player who had potential, or a player they wanted to take on? How many tournaments had you done to that point?
Well, as soon, like, the beginning of 2016 is when I played every single day, putting every single day. Well, before 2016, I was always putting because I just found that enjoyable. I couldn't drive, and my mom and dad were working a lot, so I just always sat in the basement putting and doing that, but it wasn't to like get good or anything. It was just because I was bored. But that's when 2016 happened, and I was like, wait, I can actually put actual like focus on practice and get good at it. So then that happened, and yeah.
Were there any maybe like friends in school who also played disc golf that maybe kind of drove you, or what were some of your driving factors for getting better?
Um, I I did not know any kids my age at the time that played disc golf. Um, so I was playing a lot with my dad, and when we first started, every time I beat him on a hole, I'd get $1. And then that ended by 2016. So I was taking a lot of money from him. It was rough.
That's awesome to me. That's kind of him like motivating, and I'm sure the dollars were nice and stuff, but you probably just enjoyed seeing that improvement and getting better for sure. There's one thing that's always been kind of interesting to me. We've had a lot of new players this year, especially or this last year, I guess, from COVID and people discovering the sport and stuff, ourselves included. And we're older, so we want to look more at like the fundamentals or like the form and being able to like figure out if our form is good or not. As a kid, though, I feel like that's not really something you focus on. How long into your playing did you start looking at your form or like looking at the more technical things as opposed to just playing because you were just good for your division?
Well, when I first started, I was forehand dominant, so I had no backhand at all until I think 2017. So I went a long time without like actually caring about my form, and the only reason why I started backhand was because I kept hurting my shoulder from not properly forehanding. So I'd say 2016, 2017 is when I really started to like look at stuff and just think, hey, there's a better way to do this without hurting your body, and it's going to be more efficient. You're probably going to drive further and be way more accurate on a consistent basis.
Was there ever the thought of like changing my form is gonna make me worse? I mean, like I think something that at least I kind of dealt with a little bit was, I can throw, let's say, 300 feet now, but I would change my form to make it better in the long run, but now I'm only throwing 250 and I have to kind of learn to get back to that 300, 350, 400. Was there ever something like that where, maybe you went down in distance or accuracy when kind of going through your form, but inevitably it ended up helping you out in the long run?
Yeah, I'm actually going through that right now. So I've gone through like 3 backhand phases of changing my form, and right now I'm liking it the most because I know a lot more about disc golf. So um, there's definitely points in time where I did lose 50 feet on my drive, and I didn't really care at all, to be honest, just because I knew in less than a month that's going to pay off.
So what has this current phase for you looked like? Because for me, I'm going literally through the same thing right now, and I've done um, basically going online, just Instagram videos or YouTube videos, and I have an iPhone, so I can screen record. So I literally have a folder on my in my photos, and it's just throwing. And there's just a bunch of pros and a bunch of people who I feel like have good form and throw really just effortless. And I've just screen recorded all those videos, and I'll go through and basically just study tape. And I'm like,
Mhm.
what is he doing? What do they have in common that they're doing or kind of looks like? And then now I'm kind of just trying to apply that to the course and trying to do that myself. And so that's what I've kind of been doing, and it's helped me a lot. What are you doing currently to like correct your form, I guess, or to fix it?
So the big difference for me is that females and males throw differently. And there's nobody on the FPO side that throws the same. Like there's no consistency with that. Paige throws every shot super hard. She throws it as hard as she can. And then Kat throws hyzer flips. So for me, it was the fact that like, yeah, I could go look at the dudes and learn from them, but at the same time, it's not going to do the same thing for me. So what I did is I recorded myself and I just threw over and over and over until what I thought looked best. So I definitely took some tips from Brian Earhart, Paul Macbeth, and like all like Simon Lizotte. We have pretty close form in like comparable sizes, like from female to male. So Simon has a lot of tips that have helped me, but it's just more so I had to figure it out on my own, you know?
Mm-hmm. So a whole lot of recording yourself, checking out your own tape and kind of looking for things to improve on.
Yeah.
Nice. And so was there anyone who kind of was like, hey, here are some things you want to be looking at, or maybe a little bit of coaching here or there along the way? Have any of your Discraft buddies, maybe Paige, has she helped you out at all in any of that kind of self-tape study?
Honestly, not really. The person who's helped me the most in like that aspect would be Brian Earhart. He's told me that he basically just told me like the 3 or 4 main components to a perfect drive. And he just kind of said, here are the 4 most important things. Do what you will with it, and whatever is probably going to be good for you. And then I would casually send him videos. And I'm like, is it looking better? And he'd say, yeah. So at that point, yeah, he did help a bit, but I kind of had it all figured out. I just kind of wanted someone to double check and make sure that I'm on the right path, really.
And just real quick, enlighten us. What are those 3 most important components that, I mean, you were told to look at?
Footwork, your hips, and like your pull through. Not the reach back. In my opinion, the reach back is not a real thing. It's very bad and it causes bad habits. So where the pull through is what actually matters.
Okay, and so now, when I've been going through to play lately, is I'm focusing mentally on the things that I'm trying to fix, and it's very difficult. You think you will be doing certain things and like adjusting it, but then you go back and look at the tape and you're doing nothing different. So I know a lot of people have said to exaggerate what you're trying to fix. So what are those things that you're focusing on now on your phone when you're going through your footwork, going through your throw, that you're mentally thinking about?
So the things that I'm thinking about currently are just how I'm standing, and like, because before I was kind of like leaned over in my drive, I was really leaning into my pull through, right? And now I'm like, well, you can get more distance if you just stand up straight. Basically, just having like the proper stance, I guess, like in just sports related, just being in a more athletic position rather than hunching over and exaggerating it. So, yeah.
What about as far as like your pull through? What are you like just thinking there when it's the time for that on your X step? What are you going through your head?
So mainly I'm just trying to pull through more flat and like not curl my wrist when I'm pulling through, because that was a habit of mine that I had. So I'm still just trying to focus on not really moving my wrist at all and just creating that actual power pocket. Before I was leading with my shoulder a lot, and that did not help either with my injuries. But so basically just like getting a better power pocket is what I'm focusing on.
And when you're talking about like your wrist and curling, like would you maybe compare that to like breaking your wrist, or like on the pull through, like kind of almost like pulling it towards your body, trying to get like more snap? Or what do you mean by curling your wrist?
So when I brought it back, I would not, my wrist wouldn't be straight like on the outside of the disc. It would be kind of like tucked in like that, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. And then when I pull through, I'd kind of like give it a little snap. Um, that's unneeded and it causes a lot more problems than it prevents.
Yeah, I feel definitely the most simple you can make your drive, the better. It's least things that can go wrong, because you change one little thing or you don't focus on one thing and it completely throws your throw off. So as simple as you can make it, the better for sure. And I know one thing I always tell myself or other people that are trying to learn is, if you can't mentally like think about those things while you're doing your X step, you're probably moving too fast. You definitely want to slow down. I mean, how fast? I know you're not a very quick like run up kind of player. Now that you're learning, are you kind of slowing down, or are you keeping your same speed as far as your footwork?
Um, I honestly have never had any problems with footwork on backhand. It just came very natural for me. I think that's just because of other sports, and for me, it just clicked right away. But a lot of people don't realize what you're doing with your hips is caused by your feet. You know what I mean? So, like, if your hips are wide open, your stance is going to be completely thrown off, and you're not going to be able to throw the disc, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And just to maybe put it in another sentence, when you're making that final step with your right foot, you want to be almost like closing yourself off, or really like aiming towards that. What would that be? The top left-ish corner of the tee pad, correct? So that way, when you do come through, you can actually get some of that hip swing and actually turn your hips, correct?
Yeah. So you can use that momentum and actually use your hips how they're supposed to be used. Yeah. It's very similar to baseball in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
You use the hips and then you follow through. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was going through some old Discraft clinic videos on YouTube, like those really old ones. I think Marty is maybe one of the guys that was like on those.
The one that
But
Cynthia shouted out last episode was actually pretty dang good. If you don't know what we're talking about, check it out. In the comments on our YouTube, somebody actually linked it to the video that she was talking about. Really, really good stuff. Definitely check it out.
definitely. That's one of the best videos out there.
yeah, I think I've watched it like 5 times since Cynthia talked about it last week on the episode or whatever, and it's helped a bunch, definitely. I mean, a lot of those guys are definitely older and have been around longer, and I feel like almost maybe the sport was more simple before. I don't know, maybe it's just my perspective, but it seems like more complicated, or people have made it more complicated as far as the X step, the pull through, all these. There's a lot more content to look at now. And how you were talking about how you can't really go look at certain players and try to imitate them. Like everyone's body is completely different and everyone's arm length is completely different. And so before it was just simple, like this is how you throw, but now everyone's making YouTube videos and there's like a ton of ways that like you can improve or get distance. So I think those older videos are cooler in that respect.
Definitely.
And yeah, literally since I watched that video, I've wanted to do nothing else except go to the field and just work on those things that he said. And I've literally had snow or rain every single day since then. So literally have not been able to. So can't wait to get out there and do that. Something else I want to talk about here while we're kind of talking about form is maybe a little bit of injury prevention, right? You know, you said that you were kind of dealing with a little bit of shoulder injuries. I myself am kind of sort of getting over a little bit of a hip injury. Is there anything in your form or maybe watching other players' forms that you maybe just real quick can kind of notice like, hey, if you do X, this could potentially lead to some sort of injury that maybe you've dealt with or you've seen someone else deal with?
So a lot of problems that people have are used by overextending like their muscles, whatever. They're just overextending, and that's causing a lot of inflammation, and that's what ends up hurting people. That's all I can really think off the top of my head.
I guess what are you kind of doing to avoid that, or that's helping you?
Just realizing how the human body is supposed to work. Like if you just know a little bit of information, like you know how you're supposed to keep your shoulders pulled back and like not overreach, that's going to help you when you're older. And it's the same with disc golf. You don't want to completely round your shoulder and do that, because then your arm's not moving from point A to point B. It's like literally rounding. So just being able to know how the human body is supposed to work has helped a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good tip right there. Something else that I want to talk about real quick is maybe the actual footwork or maybe the explosion of the hips. You know, like you said earlier, disc golf is kind of like baseball. I saw another video where, you know, same thing, kind of talking about the hips. When you're on your feet, are you like on the balls of your toes when you're trying to like kind of make that final little spin going through the power pocket and releasing the disc? Or are you kind of on the balls of your feet, just kind of flat footed? What is kind of the best way to have your feet when you're, going through the very end of the throw and then letting go?
So going through the X step, you want to be on not your tippy toes, but like that part of your feet. And then here's the thing, once you plant, there's no real like proven way to which throws further if you plant on your heel or your toes. At that point, it's just whatever is most comfortable for you. What I do is I generally go from the tip of my foot to the ball in my heel and then rotate over. That's just what works for me. But like I said, anybody is different.
Yeah, I know definitely one of the things I've just heard about that as far as the plant foot is you plant foot and rotate or pivot on your heel just because it will prevent injury. I know people will have injuries if they're rotating on their toes because their knees just kind of, there's more pressure on them, I guess.
Yeah.
And so one final thing, at least that I kind of have on form before we move on to something else. I think this has honestly been a really
That's like your third final thing.
I know. But this is the last one. I think this might be pretty good. A lot of the people who listen to our show are kind of newer or kind of beginners into the game. Do you have any kind of tips for maybe disc selection when kind of trying to work out your form and kind of maybe change some things? Should you kind of try to throw something a little bit understable so it's maybe a little easier to throw, or something a little bit more neutral? Do you have any quick tips on maybe a disc selection when kind of going out to the field and working on your form?
I would choose something neutral. That way you can tell, like, if you're hyzering them out or like they're just turning over. That way you can just tell where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think that was a really good discussion on form. Something else that we want to get into and that we talked a little bit about in the beginning that you mentioned, laying up more strokes. And I think this is something that a lot of people have, is that kind of aggressive mindset versus the play it safe mindset. What are your thoughts on that? You were saying earlier how your dad said, lay it up a little bit more, you'll save yourself some more strokes. And I definitely feel as though in like MA3, MA2, for sure, the more you lay up instead of making a decision to run it more or make a more risky toss, you will be saving strokes. But as you continue to climb, where is that balance between running it or making a risky shot or laying it up and playing the safe game?
So I think it really depends the situation that you're in. Like, it depends what hole you're on, everything like that. If you're in the lead, if whatever. I think another big part of that is confidence. And confidence is like how much you've put into the work. Like if you've thrown that shot 2,000 times before, you can do it. You just have to do it. You just can't be in your head about it, and you'll do it. I'd say once you have enough practice at actually doing that and having the correct muscle memory, that's when it goes from, you don't have to lay up, you can actually run it. So, yeah.
So let's go, I guess, a little bit into the DGPT, which you won. Where was your mind kind of there, I guess, from the beginning, first round, second round to third round? Did it evolve? Were you playing it safer at the beginning? Were you more aggressive towards the end? How did that look like for you?
So I didn't really play that aggressive in how I normally play. It was a little cold out there, so a lot of my putts I couldn't actually commit to because my hands are just too cold. I'd say that tournament was the most calmest I've ever felt during disc golf. I wasn't playing aggressive, but I also wasn't giving up a stroke to make sure I don't lose a stroke. I was doing what I felt comfortable with on every single shot.
Nice. And I mean, that was such an incredible tournament to watch. I imagine you had a blast watching it on ESPN as well. Take me through the end of that tournament. Let's start here at hole 17 when things went absolutely bananas and what it seemed like a door closed, this thing is over, to all of a sudden, wow, we are back in this. What was going through your mind during hole 17 and then getting up to 18?
So on hole 16, I wasn't upset, but I knew that I probably wasn't winning. The chances are very small. After the first day, I was, super ready to go for this round. And I was just like, oh, I'm trailing by a couple. It was a good run, placed better than last year. I'll take it where it's at, right? And then I get to hole 17, then Kat missed her first putt, and I just turned around and I was just looking at nature, just focusing on myself, not letting that get into my head, and just whatever happens, happens. And I end up there making my putt, turn around. Cynthia gives me knuckles, and I'm like, wait, what? I got par or something. Cool. Congrats. And then I realized that she just quadruple putted, and that's when I was like, oh, I'm still in it then. Time to play some aggressive shots, right? I mean, might as well. If we get off the next tee clean, then we should be able to do something from there. But I did not get off the next tee clean. I shanked it, and at that point, I knew Paige was just going to lace the shot. I don't know if she threw before me, but I knew Paige was going to lace the shot. It was very easy. It's a big gap, to be honest, and she laced it. I didn't, and I knew I had to play a semi-aggressive upshot and just get as far as I could around that corner, so it makes it a very easy pitch. And I did it, and then I noticed Paige did not, and I honestly thought she was still in range, and I thought she was going to run that putt for the win on the last hole, and she didn't, and I was just like, wait, what? Now we're going into a playoff, and like literally my best showing, and I was very shocked, and we took like a 15-minute break to do the playoff, and then I continued to just do whatever felt right in the moment and paid off. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that ending was a ton of fun. How big was your putt to win?
I think it was like 25 to 28 feet.
Yeah, it was not like a gimme. It was definitely like, there's stress here. This is for everything. I mean, do you just run through your normal, this is just a regular putt, something I've done in my basement every day? Or like, were you trying to keep yourself calm?
Well, when I walked up to that putt, I knew there was no chance I was missing. I didn't miss. I mean, I might have missed like 2 putts inside the circle that day, so I knew there was no chance I was missing that putt because of how much pressure was on the putt. I love pressure. I fuel off of the pressure. So I knew I was not missing.
And so I guess, I mean, obviously you love the pressure, love that. I think that's something that the more of that you have, the more success you can have in disc golf, right? Because there's going to be a ton of pressure situations. And that kind of brings me into the fact of, that putt was literally a $10,000 putt, on the verge of getting the highest ever purse at a disc golf tournament in that 20K. So that literally was just fueling you. There was no ever like, oh man, what if I miss this, or was it just all, hey, you got this, you're going to make this, like, I love this situation. Was it all that, or any doubt at all?
No, in my head, I was literally said to myself, there's no way you can miss this. And then I putted and I made it.
I feel like that's definitely like the correct, people a lot of times have asked us or have told us to ask guests about like putting or how they can get over like the self-doubt and putting. I think a lot of it is just, personal, and instead of trying to focus on not missing, it's focusing on just making the putt. And it's, to some people, that's a big difference. Like, there's so many more ways that you can miss. Like, there's a lot less ways that you can make it. You put it in there, you make it. But missing, you can miss left, miss right, miss high, miss short. There's a lot more. So I think that mindset of just thinking like, I'm going to make this is definitely, I feel like, something that a lot of our listeners could, pick up and try to focus on, even if it's not a final championship putt, just regular every day, build that confidence, like you said.
Cool. Well, I think we're ready for some fan questions, maybe, if you are, Hailey.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Let's get to the first one here. This comes in from Wave So Groovy. They want to know, is there any kind of maybe mental aspect or improvement in your game or value of any kind when wearing earbuds versus not wearing earbuds while playing?
Sometimes this might come off wrong, but sometimes I'm a little bored, so I like to listen to the music so I can just keep going. It's not that I'm not like beating these women or whatever, and that's why I'm listening to music, because I'm just bored of disc golf. It's just the fact that I love disc golf, and I love everything about disc golf. So when I'm out there, it feels normal. And what's normal to me is I always listen to music, so I just always out there having fun. There's no mental challenges for me when I'm listening to music. I actually didn't listen to any music for the Pro Tour Championship, which was probably my first time that year. So I don't know.
Is
Yeah,
there
definitely.
sorry, go ahead, Horatio.
I was gonna say, I definitely noticed that, early on in the season or older tournaments, you had earbuds, and then later on in the season or towards the end of it, you kind of just cut that off. Was that just, just confidence and mindset? You were like, I need to be here 100%.
I think it was more so the fact that I had my friends as caddies. So that helped me. That was just, I didn't need music to pass the time. I had my friends there, to talk to and everything. So, yeah.
Nice. Our next question here comes in from Amandez33. They ask, how can you get better with accuracy?
Like we said earlier, I think one of the best things to being accurate is just trying to keep everything a 1-2, like straight point, Don't like round, or when you're putting, don't move your hand too much. Try to keep it all in one line. And then more times you practice that, just the more muscle memory you're going to build and the better you're going to get.
Cool. Okay, next one we got here is, you've already answered this one. Rev DG asked, how do you stay focused when your whole card starts playing bad? I guess you're listening to music and then just talking to friends.
Yeah.
Let's see. He also asked how to maintain rhythm when there's a backup on a hole or when the pace slows a lot. We saw that a lot this season, I feel, for different reasons, where the cards were backed up and you had to be sitting there. And you can listen to music or you can chat with your friends, but especially like the Pro Tour Championship, like how do you stay in the zone? Like when you're just sitting around for like 5-10 minutes waiting for the card.
So that is one of my biggest downfalls, always has been. I cannot sit still for like 2 minutes. So backups are very hard for me. I've been trying to just talk to people, like talk to my caddy, have a snack, and then if necessary, do some jumping jacks or push up to get back into that athletic movement and everything. A lot of people like to just sit down and sit on their phone, and I think that is probably one of the worst things you can do, just because of the fact that you've been playing disc golf for how long, how many holes you've been playing, and now you're just completely stopping, taking your mind off the subject.
Yeah.
Now you expect yourself to get back into it and get the birdie on the next hole. It's not a good idea. It doesn't go that way. Even nobody does that. Nobody just sits there and is able to capitalize the next couple of holes.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice right there. Our next question here comes from, let's see here, Samper DG. Their question is, does Hailey think the ESPN coverage of the Disc Golf Pro Tour finals will help attract more women to disc golf?
I think yes, overall, yes, but I think it's really going to help like the younger girls in the sport, just because they did see me win it, and they know my age. I was 19, and the first person I ever saw win a women's tournament was Paige Pierce, and she was already like 25 by that time. So being able to see a younger athlete, a younger woman come into the sport and do good at it and get a win, I think that is going to fuel a lot more people to join the game.
Yeah, for sure. I know I've definitely used you specifically as an example when talking to coworkers or other people about disc golf, and them thinking it's just some silly thing people do, for fun, or people just go and like they're drinking or smoking or whatever, and it's for like goofballs. And I tell them like literally like this girl just won $20K. She's 19 from playing disc golf. Like this is her career, takes it completely serious, and it's totally something that she's dedicated a lot of time to. And hopefully, you know, they see that. And like you said, they can look up to you being a young player and see themselves. I think one thing that's really cool that's taken off, I feel like, is van life. It's very trendy, and on Instagram or social media, people, you know, want to travel more. Younger people are more, they don't want to be tied down as much. And I feel like people discovering disc golf and van life, they're going to really be attracted to that. And then so seeing people like yourself doing it full time and, you know, making money from it and being able to sustain themselves, I think that's super awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool seeing that, and I feel like van life and disc golf really has picked up like within the last couple of years. And I think they definitely will coincide at some point, and I think we'll see a lot more people that do the van life join disc golf and making it a profession because they already have a home. They're used to that living style. And one of the biggest problems for disc golfers trying to go on tour is the fact that they have a home, they have bills to pay and all this stuff. You know, they have a 9 to 5 job. They can't do disc golf like that. So we will definitely see a big impact from that for sure.
Nice. And if you're watching on YouTube, you probably saw what I just saw, and I have to ask, what is your cat's name?
Her name's Moonlight.
Nice. I love that. I really I love her tail. I think that looks really cool. I think she is, I'm glad she got in the podcast. There's been a couple times where my cat's gotten on the podcast. So glad that she made an appearance. Horatio, I think we're ready to get into the ace round if you are.
I think we're good to go.
All right, cool. Let's get to it. If you're unfamiliar, new to the show, the ACE round is the same 5 questions that we like to ask all of our athletes that we bring on. So let's start here with our first question, Hailey. You're taking a buddy to go buy their first set of discs. What is the number 1 putter, number 1 mid-range, and the number 1 driver you would tell them to get when they're just starting out playing?
I would tell them to putt with a Challenger or a Roach. Challenger's a little bit more overstable, but the Roach is pretty neutral. And then for a mid-range, I would probably tell them to get a Comet. That is the best mid-range, like beginner mid-range and even professionals use it all the time. It feels similar, more similar to the Ultra Stars and everything. So I think that is going to be easier for people to get used to than just switching to like a Buzz or something. And then a fairway I would recommend would be probably a Heat. It goes very far and it's really easy to use, and you can use it for multiple different things. It's not just a beginner disc, but you can start with it at a beginner and still use it to when you're a pro. So I think that disc is good for every level, and it will elevate your game.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Question number 2. Your favorite course that you have played and the number 1 course that you would love to play.
My favorite course would probably be like Brewster Ridge, maybe, from the GMC courses. That's my favorite property that I've ever played. Amazing courses. Shout out to Jeff Springs for those, having GMC there every year. It's amazing. My number 1 course that I want to play, I don't know the course name, but it's for the Estonia Open. I can't remember that course
I wonder
name,
if it's the one that everybody says, the Beast, or...
Yeah, I think it might be the Beast.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
definitely been a popular one.
Yeah.
Our third question here we got for you is, what is the number 1 tip you would give yourself if you could go back to when you first started taking disc golf seriously?
Take care of your body from the get-go. Just do it.
Cool. Yeah. We all want to play for as long as we can. You know, we want to be those old 80, 90-year-olds out there still playing. So the only way you can do that is to take care of yourself. So cool.
Yep.
All right. Next question. Your favorite memory playing disc golf?
Wow. I mean, I'd say ledge zone my first year playing it. My dad was there. He went to every single disc golf tournament besides for the pro tours now. And that's where I decided I wanted to make this a career and I wanted to go pro at it. And I met so many amazing people at that event. It's just, that one I'll remember forever.
Nice. That's awesome. That's really cool. Our last question we got for you, Hailey, is what is the biggest mistake you see new players making out on the course?
They like to go straight to max distance drivers because they just want to throw far. You're going to hurt yourself doing that, and you're not going to learn the proper form to where you will actually be able to throw for far.
Yeah. I think that's a good one. I like that. Something I've definitely learned over this off season is that really when our guests tell you guys, hey, start with putters, or whatever you're at, go back, learn to throw your putters, learn to drive with putters, really take that seriously, because I've definitely become someone where if it's a shot within 250, there's absolutely no reason for me to grab anything other than a putter. And I think, going up to those 13 speed drivers is definitely a little bit of a mistake. And you almost might get a little frustrated with the sport because you're not seeing, what yourself, Paul, Yuli, the other guys like that who just absolutely unload. I think that's a really good one. Hailey, we really do appreciate you coming on. We appreciate your time. We know you're super busy. Any other sponsors you want to thank or anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
I want to thank Discraft, Ladies First, Perfect Putt, Wings, and Bridge Roller for just being amazing sponsors and keeping me out on the road. Mitten Bags, they have the best sports sack I've ever used. Thank you guys for having me. It was fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Really glad we got to have you and Cynthia back to back. So that's awesome. Change it up for sure. Can't wait to see this season, what it looks like, coming off a big win like that last year. We're excited. Definitely ready for the season to start. I'm sure you are too. Take care, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.